fine. You're fine.
the eraser broke off, and I went to the hardware store. I bought super glue because they can't fix it. The super glue was hard, like plastic.
Oh, no.
I'm out.
That's quite an investment there, that you.
Would you let them know you're ready?
I'm ready.
Go find
Call
it.
to order the Middleville DDA meeting for Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Before we kick off, I just want to not cry, but I would like to just take a moment to recognize the loss that we recently suffered of a board member and a friend. So I would his time was so appreciated, and I just want to take a moment of silence if you guys don't mind. Okay. Pull it together and let's do the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Justine King,
Here?
Sherry DeGraff,
Here.
Trevor DeGroot.
Here.
Tim Densham.
Here.
Casey Haney,
Here.
Stephanie McDonald,
Here.
Eric Schaefer,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Ann Alberg.
Here. All right, and I will take an approval of the agenda, the amended agenda.
I will approve the amended agenda this evening.
Support?
I can second.
Okay, motion with support to approve the amended agenda, which includes the update to the bills. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And moving on to the consent agenda. I'll take a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for the DDA meeting minutes for June 3rd, 2025, and approval of bills as of July 1st for $13,207.16.
And second.
Motion with support. Any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call, please.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Trevor DeGroot. Tim Desham,
Approved.
Casey Haney,
Aye.
Stephanie McDonald.
Aye.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Kevin Smith.
Aye.
Ann Alberg,
Aye.
Justine King.
Yes. All right, passes. Moving on to public comments. Any public want to comment? Oh, great.
Yeah,
Just
really.
kidding. Come on. 3-minute limit.
I know. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see a full DDA board. It's really, really wonderful. And thank you for your comments about Joe. He's a dear, dear friend, as you said, and servant to our community, and definitely will be missed. So we'll have some board governance training and things like that coming up. Doug and I are going to kind of organize that at a future meeting. But in the meantime, if you have any questions on anything, you can get a hold of me. By the way, I'm Craig. I'm the village manager for the village. We also have a tour and kind of training July 31st at 9:30 in the morning for Bradford White. If anybody's interested in joining us for that, let me or Doug know, and we'll add you to the list. And they usually give us a tour, wear us out, and then feed us pretty well and get us out of there. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone interested that hasn't said anything can always raise their hand.
What time was
Yeah,
that?
we've got you.
Yeah.
It's Thursday the 31st.
Meeting here?
We'll meet at Bradford White.
Okay.
Yep, you're already on the list.
Perfect. Moving on to reserve time, none. Unfinished business. We are bringing back the Wi-Fi situation as it was a little more expensive than we thought. Doug.
Absolutely. So you see before you that any of you that aren't aware, we previously had 3 proposals for different scopes of work at the previous meeting, where the board agreed to work with Spectrum. However, there had been transition in a representative there. So they were still in the process of getting us a quote. So they ended up providing us a quote shortly after our last meeting. The board had previously agreed to pay a cost not to exceed $4,000 because that was the number, that I was given that it sounded like, well, we'd be working with. However, if you look at this contract, the estimated annual cost is $4,968. And this also includes one-time installation and equipment charges of $2,600. The reason this was originally brought up is that we previously had Wi-Fi at the park. That certainly, like the market space, had taken advantage of that. It had been expressed as a possible concern or need. So we provided quotes for you, asking if the board can, review and discuss the revised proposal, and then considering approval of the proposal despite the existing or the cost exceeding the previously authorized annual limit, or if choosing not to, taking action either which way, at the board's discretion, of course. We'll proceed accordingly, but this will be coming from our placemaking budget, which we have not utilized any of those funds as of yet. We have $35,000 available in that line item this year. Hopefully I covered everything, so I know we have a couple new board members. If there's any questions about any of this, any background, any information that could be helpful, you'll see the quote is in the packet.
So is this the first time everybody's seen this quote then?
Yeah, this is, we saw one
Revised.
previously, but
Okay.
this one, yep.
I mean, I'm looking at the monthly recurring charges, and you could probably buy a brand new switch each month and brand new antennas for the cost here. So I don't really know, you probably know this better than I do.
Just as a comment on the entire process, just to bring everybody up to speed. This has been volleyed back and forth between IT providers and our MSP that manages for the village. Our original quote was somewhere into the order of $50,000 that included switches and routers and hotspots and so on and so forth. This really is, to render it down, is genuinely a much better deal. It's a little bit more enterprise level than, obviously, we don't have a DIYer that goes out there and installs this. So this is really ready to go and fully functional and supported by Comcast, or Spectrum, sorry. So in general terms, it's kind of an all-inclusive price to the point of the monthly fee. But also when we looked at like-kind quotes, they were all north of 5 figures at minimum. So this is actually the bargain decision, other than having, Eric and I climbing on top of a roof and aiming.
I was up there.
Yeah. So I think to that point, I agree with you that this is an expensive proposition in like small and mid-sized business terms. But I think given the fact that we had a solution that didn't work, that was around the same price, actually a little bit more expensive than that, this one just comes fully supported. So I think we could just pick up the phone and get it fixed if something was wrong.
That was the thing, was the maintenance of it. If we DIY'd it, then who's fixing it? And that's where the IT company that works with the village was like, we'll fix it for $40,000. And so that's where we kind of circled back to, this made more sense. So now this obviously is a little bit, almost $1,000 more a year than we originally approved. So that's all if we're still willing to do that. So,
But coming in at a tenth of what we were budgeted.
Yeah.
So that
That
was.
part, that part's great.
Yeah.
I have done some work like this before and like, I didn't charge this though. And the recurring thing, because the effort is to go out there and you run a Cat 5 or whatever category we're in right now, and you get it in there. I mean, that's the main work. After that,
Mhm.
fingers crossed, everything works.
What we actually had was a Ubiquity mesh system.
Mesh system.
I don't know if you've ever
No
had
wires.
experience with that, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
It is, half of that price is business class internet, which I pay $180
Yeah,
for. So
yeah.
so we're really, again, at a fraction of the cost. I think it does make sense, and I'm super glad to have somebody that understands this on board along with me. So.
Well, if it's a tenth the cost, that's a heck of a lot better. So that sounds
Yeah.
great, I guess.
Mhm.
Good questions, though.
Mhm. Is there a timeline on this, Doug, if we approve today that they can get it installed
So
potentially?
absolutely, they would proceed. We would likely be having, services within the next month.
Perfect, okay.
So, yeah, it's completely up to the board.
As a follow-up to the folks at the farmer's market
Mhm.
aren't coming because of it. So
Mhm.
there have been a few people that
Yeah.
have just waved off and because we just don't have the service. So that is a big deal for us because the farmer's market participants are hard to come by.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to clear a path to keep that vitality going for sure.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Anyone want to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the Spectrum Business Internet Service as quoted.
I guess I will second it.
Perfect. Motion with support. Any further discussion? All right, we're spending money, so we will do a roll call, please.
Trevor DeGroot.
Aye.
Tim Densham.
Aye.
Casey Haney.
Aye.
Stephanie McDonald.
Aye.
Eric Schaefer.
yes.
Kevin Smith.
Aye.
Ann Alberg.
Aye.
Sherry DeGraff.
Aye.
Justine King.
Yes. All right, passes. Hopefully we'll have that soon. New business, none. Moving on to the director's report. Doug.
Thank you, board. I'm glad to see that we finally have a full board. I'm sure we'll be looking forward to introductions, potentially around the DDA board member comments, not putting anyone on the spot, just, hinting. But, a handful of things. There certainly are a good amount of administrative updates that are listed in here, along with the staff doing orientations for the 3 new board members. Hopefully you don't judge me too harshly on that orientation. Try to get that all done in a week. Anyway, one thing I'd like to mention about the financial planning, as some of you may know, the DDA is required to have 2 informational meetings about the budget where we don't act on those items. I was hoping to have an additional report that's likely going to come at our August meeting, as we did not get one of our the Michigan class information back. But I do have some additional documents that we can talk about when it comes to the revenue and expense report. Just if you'll bear with me for a few minutes, I'll be able to go over that in a little more detail. The dumpster screening was completed. That was part of the consent agenda. So please do check that out. We have our streetscape meeting scheduled for our first steering committee meeting. So that'll be coming soon. And we'll have more information about the TIF renewal coming up at our August meeting. Beyond that, hoping to get some insight about the board's interest or availability for a possible board retreat. So I think we do need to have some dialogue about succession planning and a couple things that Mr. Stolzenberg had highlighted on as well. Since we have a new board, I will say I did go to the historic preservation workshop, gave a lot of insight in regards to if we're going to become a select community through the Main Street program. It's a required meeting for staff, and then they, of course, asked that you have 1 or 2 potential board members coming with you. I went by myself, but is what it is. It gave a lot of good information we can hopefully dialogue about at a later meeting or a committee, talking really about what the requirements are for certification, so forth. Social district beyond what's provided on here. I did get some feedback from the Liquor Control Commission, some additional information that I need to provide them with. But I have a contact, and so hopefully by the time this next comes around, we can start talking about what that logo looks like and proceeding further. Everything that's on here, I don't know if you have any questions. Try not to talk too much. Concerns? Comments? Thank you.
Beautiful. Next up, Community Development Coordinator Report. Cassie.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? Happy to see a lot of new faces. So as June has obviously come to a close, now this is July 1st, hard to believe that we're almost halfway through our summer. June brought some really strong things happening. We had the Riverbank series that kicked off on the 6th of June. And we've also continued to see a lot of growth within the Middleville market. We had a good, decent amount of engagement during the June 13th shop hop. Definitely think it could have been better, but given with like the concert, the Kid Rock concert and everything happening, I still feel like it was a really decent turnout. The crowd seemed to come and go, like it seemed to come in like waves. At some moments it didn't seem very busy or it was like dead, and then other minutes it was like very, there was like a huge group of people coming through. Additionally, I've been making sure to continue up with my business follow-ups and engaging with all of our local businesses and making sure that I'm, frequently visiting, that I'm on the ground and that I'm like right there in their face, so that if there's anything that they need or if there's any concerns that they have, that I'm right there to help walk them through that or offer any guidance or find them any resources that they might potentially need. Additionally, so with the 4th of July coming up and with it being the holiday, so there is not going to be a market this Friday for the 4th of July. A lot of our vendors wanted to take some time off and spend time with their families. So I just went ahead and made the decision just to pause it for this week, and it will resume again on July 11th. Additionally, a couple like discussion items too on top of not just like the 4th of July, but also talking about DDA ribbon cuttings. So we've had a couple businesses open so far, Gabby's and Inkwell being two off the top of my head. Both of those businesses have gone without any ribbon cuttings from the chamber, even though that was something that they had expressed that they had really wanted. However, that had not happened. I'm also aware that Lenny's Links also did not get one through our Berry County Chamber. And some thoughts that I had to maybe make sure that like our businesses that are coming in are feeling supported, that maybe we might consider doing our own ribbon cuttings when the chamber is unable to do that for our businesses here. So that way our businesses do feel supported and do, and so that we're there all together in front of their faces, knowing that we're there to support them and that we're, we can come together and provide whatever resources that we may have in our pockets, and to just like give them a very warm Middleville welcome. Another thing as well is I'm currently looking into some Riverbank series enhancements, and I'm thinking about some potential like lawn games and even some kids activities that we could possibly have out that would be very like you just leave it and they play, whether that be a sidewalk chalk or some beach balls or lawn dart. Yeah, there we go, lawn darts. Yeah, we do have the beanbag toss cornhole. We have one of those. However, we only have one set. So it might even be potentially worth looking into investing in another set if people wanted to have, cornhole tournaments during the music series. Additionally, as well, is I'm currently looking into some ways to market the Middleville market. I'm looking for some like new, like
some new ways to increase like the marketing efforts that really fit a market. So, you know, some options that I had thought of were you have your traditional like social media ads. You know, we could do new signage or even like a small branded giveaway, such as like a little gift basket of maybe like that we raffle off with, you know, some items from each of our vendors, you know, like some maple syrup from one and some jam from another. You know, we have like a little gift basket we can raffle off with some of the products. And that way we're buying, you know, those products from the market vendors so that we're supporting them. And then additionally, hopefully encouraging people maybe to come down to the market just to, even if it's just to apply for the raffle, at least they're still there looking. However, I'm very open to any ideas that any of you may have as to some ways that we could potentially improve the marketing aspect for the market. And then additionally as well is, so traditionally from what I understand is Fall Fest usually takes place in October. However, with Heritage Day already scheduled for September 13th, I would really appreciate the board's input on whether we should proceed with Fall Fest this year. Does it make sense to do it a month later after Heritage Day, or do we think that might kind of like burn people out of events? Do we think that there might be as much engagement for Fall Fest as there is for Heritage Day with them being so close together? So an alternative approach that I had for that was potentially instead of doing Fall Fest, if we expanded on Heritage Day instead and made Heritage Day an even bit, we just invested more into Heritage Day, you know, instead of having Heritage Day and then Fall Fest a month later, and what that might look like. And I'd really appreciate any feedback from the board and help determining next steps and what the board feels is right. Is there any questions or feedback or ideas?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'll talk for a while, so go ahead.
I'll talk for a while. You have my wheels going, Kathy.
Planning commission's at 7.
So
Sure.
first off, I'm going to speak to pretty much all of your points. Ribbon cutting. So it's my understanding then that the Berry County Chamber is responsible for the ribbon cuttings, not necessarily our DDA.
We actually
Is that-
do it as the
So,
DDA.
yeah,
We've done it
multiple times.
before.
So
Yeah,
what
you
had
guys did it
happened
for-
was
So I don't know
that
what
we used
prompts
to
us
do
to
it,
do that.
and then we
Yeah.
didn't have staff, and it was an issue with the staffing, and we were like, well, the chamber offers it, so why don't we take that approach? And then clearly that's not working.
Well,
The chamber was providing the ribbon cuttings.
That's
Um,
why.
I remember
You know,
we did it for
But at the
Riverbank Yoga
time,
and
the
Baby
director at the
Barbie
time
Bend.
was not getting the responses,
Yes.
and that's when the DDA,
Yeah, okay.
that was around the time that both board members King and Schaefer came to this board. But yes, the county had
I
been
think
doing it.
Jennifer Heisman
Like
would
the
show up in a
OGs.
heartbeat if we reached out and said,
Well, you have to give them more notice than I want to do it on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because I'm on that committee as well. So you can't just say, you know, I want to do it Saturday, and
Mhm.
you have to get on their docket, and, you know, so you have to kind of pre-plan.
It has to be at least 3 weeks.
Do
So
we know if those businesses are part of that chamber already? Would be my next
Probably
question.
not.
So it may be more of an opportunity for the chamber to approach them to bring them on, because there's a fee associated with that for the participation,
Mhm.
rather than them coming and doing the ribbon cutting. So as those businesses being part of the DDA, yes, it makes sense for us to go support them in their ribbon cutting separately or in partnership with the chamber, but I understand why the chamber wouldn't want to be involved if those people are not already members of that chamber.
So this could potentially, at a later meeting, we could bring goal sessions for like the promotions committee. Is we have 3 new board members trying to fine tune what those goals are. This might be something good for a promotions committee to try to workshop what they would like to see from a ribbon cutting standpoint. So regardless of what the chamber does, we can, work in lockstep or in silos.
Stephanie, didn't you have a ribbon cutting? It was
I
Caledonia
did, but
Chamber.
yes, I'm a member of the
Okay.
Caledonia Chamber, so they actually had approached me and said, hey, you opened a storefront. You should really have a ribbon cutting. And I said, hey, Middleville DDA, we're planning this. Do you want to be part of it? So that's how that happened.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a snowy day.
Yes, it was.
So how do you guys find out that there's going to be a business that's opening? Is it when there's a sale? But like if somebody rents it, how do you find out?
So it's a good question. A lot of times, we may find out from the proposed tenant that's interested in the site. We may find out from their site plan what they're proposing to modify the building. So I can't give you a certain answer because it really varies. Like we have one new business, for example, that's going in bargain bins, that being the other body shop. We found out because they required zoning approval. So certainly we can work with them to try to find out what type of notice they'll need in order to let us know when they're opening. But other businesses, it's been very short notice. Contracts are signed. Like I still need to clarify if a new owner is, or if a new tenant is open next door to Lenny's Links location, or if that's not open yet.
It is.
So just being nosy is how you
Yeah,
gotta
it's
find out.
truly, like you guys found out because I emailed you.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. So it really varies. In the downtown business district, if they're doing modifications, they require zoning approval. So I'll find out as a zoning administrator in a lot of those instances, or it may be from an enforcement standpoint, or,
Something as simple as a sign permit.
yeah. It really varies.
I guess I would say that if I was one of those new businesses, I would definitely want to get as much splash as I possibly could. So if that's something that we could do,
Mhm.
why wouldn't we, I guess?
Absolutely.
to your point about market vendors, with the raffle participation, I participate in many markets where I am required to provide donation. And in my experience, the fees for the farmers market and all markets within Middleville are on the lower end. So I personally feel as though it would be fair for us to ask for a donation towards a raffle. So if we approached the vendors and said, hey, if you would like to participate, this would be really great for your products to throw in a donation to this basket and we're going to raffle it off.
To the farmer's market attendance and growth, we have a really big opportunity because we have people that are participating in other farmers markets, but also there's a great one just north of here, 6-7 minutes. Those people may not know or understand the mechanics of our farmers market. It probably wouldn't hurt to spread the love in other farmers markets and just say, hey, we've got one on Friday. We have a crowd. It's followed up with a band. You know, there's a lot of participation. I can tell you firsthand from the people that are participating, when there's more vendors, strangely enough, they sell more.
Makes sense.
And so I think it's one thing to attract people, but I think we need to put the cart before the horse in this case and say, we need a lot of vendors. And the more vendors we have, the more people will come and visit it. And I think the best way to do that is to find people that are already packing up their stuff and going to other farmers markets. There's a bunch on Saturday and they have a strategic advantage because it's not in the middle of the day and not on a work day. But I think that it might be really helpful to just give them a card or something, give them the details of our farmers market and try to go to as many as those as we can to invite people to come here. I think the vendors are what matter. I think if people see a lot of people, they'll show up. And ironically, a couple of the vendors said when vendors don't show up and it's lean, their sales like legit 50%, like half of what they normally would sell if there's a bunch. So just some food for thought.
Joe, prior to his passing, had suggested that we give farmers a table for free on their first time, just so that way they can give it a go and then decide if they want to continue to participate. I would agree. I think that's a good idea.
For sure. I think it's just vendors are what bring people. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. Cassie, I don't know if you could do kind of like what Kevin said, like a little, I don't know, like a PDF like flyer thing.
Yeah.
And you could just print them off and we could always grab them if we know we're gonna go to a market or something and we could do some of that work
Yeah.
too, you know. I always go to different things, so.
Do we have signs to put at, on M37, like a little placard saying farmer's market and then an arrow pointing this way? Because I used to forget, because, you know, I'm just driving by, but M37, everyone has to stop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So either one way or the other, like, oh yeah, it's going on today. Maybe I'll go by.
It is on the LED sign. However, it obviously goes in rotation, so it's not always guaranteed that when you're at the light you're gonna
Yeah.
see it. But you
know,
got like a
sandwich
50-50
board just sitting out there with
shot.
a Big arrow farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
Or a feather flag.
Sorry.
Do we really?
Well, I don't know what the ordinance is saying about that,
So, yeah, I was gonna say,
All
are
right,
sandwich
stop.
boards even in the ordinance? Who knows? But that is a good idea. I would
but I don't know what the
add,
ordinances are. I
looking
know
into
I
that.
belong to
Sandwich
the
board?
yeah,
township,
something
but
to draw
I
attention
see 'em-
because
see
I
'em at
don't
the church
read
and
LED. They change and I don't have the concentration for that.
I don't disagree, though. We don't do enough, like, repetitive signage
Yeah.
along 37. And
Oh, yeah.
apparently,
Oh, okay.
the DDA wouldn't need a permit or an ordinance to worry about. We can
Mhm.
literally do whatever we gotta do, but,
We could have people down there dancing. with the
right?
sign.
Yeah.
I think dressed up
Mhm.
like a farmer.
I think
Let
we,
Eric kick it off.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
With
looking
his
right at Doug
with his-
right now. I think he would be great at this.
Feather
But I-
flag.
That's who I know.
I think if we had some sort of signage, obviously we can't do, I really wish that we could put stuff across the road, but that is apparently not allowed.
Mhm.
But to have like that, just a persistent signage on 37 right when you come into the village, because there's just, that LED sign, while expensive and apparently ineffective, it would be great to have banners or something that just kind of are there during the season that we can remove at the end of the summer, just to, as a reminder, farmers
Doesn't
market.
seem like a
Friday.
permanent, like a road sign that says farmer's market. I don't know how much.
No, I think just like a feather flag or a banner or some sort of, that just is, that comes and goes for the season, but is persistent through the summer, just so that people know that it's there.
It seemed at one time back when I was on the board before, they did have signs.
Yeah.
We had banners at one point. I don't know if our banner brackets are different now. There used to be banners here and like all the way down
Yeah.
Main Street that had like farmer's market and Riverbank, but I don't know if the brackets are different now. We may have different brackets now.
I think if we just did it like leading up to the stoplight even, it doesn't have to, I think it would be better if it was just the length of the village, just to be quite frank, but on both sides.
We-
But even if it was just as an approach to the stoplight and have persistent regular flags that just say farmer's market Friday or whatever. I'm no marketer.
are there regulations against like Facebook events and stuff too? I know that it's repetitive for every single Friday, but I think that also helps gain traction because people are always on social media
Yeah.
seeing what's going on.
Yeah, like a regular, like, the Misty Ridge and Rolling Oaks have their own, and that's, if you can get through the volatility, the messaging is reaching just about everybody that lives in those communities, so it would be really helpful. I don't know, do you do that? Do you post in like Rolling Oaks and Middleville Chatter and?
I do post a Middleville Chatter, and additionally, we have about $1,200 from like fees that we've gathered from vendors. And that's just kind of like sitting there. So we can
You
take.
wouldn't post for free.
Well, we could.
With your account, you could just go in there and create posts.
Well, yeah,
Well,
Facebook, but you can sponsor them.
What I was,
Or you can target it.
yeah.
I mean, if you want.
Okay,
What I was rolling into was that we could invest in some signage using the money that we have gathered this year from our vendors, and we can take that and reinvest into some like signage. So we have about $1,200 sitting there that hasn't been used. It's just sitting there, and we can use that to reinvest
Because then we could use
in
that
signage.
like every season, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not
Theoretically.
opposed to reinvesting because I think we need to build it ultimately.
Mhm.
So whatever we need to do it for now. I mean, there's a limit, but you know, 1,200 seems reasonable.
If you need help too creating a Facebook events, I can help you with that too for the farmer's market.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any more, I'm gonna like take it one at a time. Any more like farmer's market discussion? Everyone good on that? Everyone okay on the ribbon cutting? We're probably gonna maybe have another discussion later on about that, but I definitely think we need to find a solution for that. The Riverbank series, the lawn games and stuff. I think that's a good
It's a
idea.
great idea.
Everyone good with that? Kind of coming up with a plan for that, yeah? Okay, so Fall Fest. So last year they did it like a Halloween, like a trunk or treat thing. It wasn't the DDA, but other businesses. But last year Heritage Day was in August. So I guess thoughts on how we feel about that.
Was the Fall Fest, the trunk or treat?
Yeah, the Carveth Village
Yeah.
did, and I don't know.
I just don't want it, if like we're gonna,
Golf carts
if
up and
we
down.
eliminate it, I just don't want it to have like some sort of historic significance that we're just erasing out, but if it was just something that we've created recently or something. that-
So we used to have it, and then we used to have a lot more events, and then obviously there was a DDA needs to stop doing events situation, and so then we circled back, and so last year, Mackenzie picked that up, I think, to try to bring some events back, because we wanted to bring stuff back.
I think they used Lions too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I could look
Lions,
it
I
up,
think.
but
Okay, I was
think
like,
it
somebody
I think
else
was-
did it, but
yeah,
okay.
I think it was Lions and Carveth together did that
Yeah.
one.
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Under
So-
the pavilion, yeah. There wasn't golf carts at that one. That way you're probably thinking of,
Isn't that like a fall tour thing?
fall color tour.
The
Oh,
color
yeah.
tour.
Yeah.
On the trail.
Yeah,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so we
Yep.
don't want to eliminate that, because.
Actually, we were considering incorporating that into the Fall Fest because we're not getting too many people at the
Oh.
fall color tour, but we
Yeah.
could probably incorporate it into Heritage Day as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, the Fall
So-
Fest was the one that Joe organized with Mackenzie.
Okay, so I guess weather is so hit or miss, but like if you look at the schedule, like so September 13th to like November 1st is 7 weeks. So is that, so if we pushed it as far as we could, I guess, in my opinion, to like November 1st, is 7 weeks too short? Should we not? But somebody else could pick the event up, obviously, like the Lions could
Lions.
still do it and there could still be that. But I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because I appreciate that. But also if the DDA is gonna do events, like we should do the event. You know what I mean? With their
Yeah.
support and help and to an extent, right? We need to pick the events we're gonna do and we should be consistent. So
Yep.
if we're gonna say no Fall Fest this year, then we're getting rid of Fall Fest, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel, but that would be my thought on it.
What other
I agree.
events, like cornerstone events, does
Yes.
the DDA do? I mean, I
Christmas
feel
on
like
the
Heritage
River.
Day is
Yeah.
is definitely a cornerstone event.
Yeah, so that was kind of something I had mentioned, I think, a while back of like, I really would love it if the event committee would come up with the events we're gonna do, and those are the set events for the rest of our lives.
Right.
And also maybe dates, like third Saturday of this month, and you know what I mean, having consistency. So if we could come up with that, and so if we all wanna discuss in like direction that committee, I think we should. And then that way we can come up with a plan.
I think and wasn't it, I mean, Heritage Day, the whole concept of having Heritage Days sooner than later was because of school, right? Which,
Yeah.
will school be back in attendance by then?
But then we run into Hastings Summerfest was the other issue.
Mhm.
Last year it wasn't, Heritage Days wasn't well attended because Summerfest was going on. And then surrounding dates, we run into Labor Day, and if we do it, there was other things that we had tossed around. You run into other
Yeah,
events
Messy.
in the surrounding towns if we do it earlier.
Yeah, that was tough. That's how we ended up on Summerfest weekend last year.
What major events what major events makes sense for the DDA, right? Like,
Mhm.
obviously, I think the weekly stuff is a no-brainer, especially when it brings people downtown. I love Heritage Days. What other event?
So the market and the Riverbank series, I think that's solid.
That's table stakes.
I think Heritage Day, solid. Christmas on the River,
That's a good one.
that's solid, I think.
Gotta have Santa go down Main
Yeah.
Street.
So
That's usually well attended too.
Yep.
So,
last year there were logistical issues. I don't know if we'll run into that again this year, but there were some logistical issues last year with the reindeer and the thought of when it was but it all, it's fine. And then there were issues with the
bus.
movement of the parade as well. There were issues with, there were a lot of issues last year, but overall, it's a great event and I hope that we'll all be on track this year, but
Well, you got a big team here now.
yes.
And they're all
Mhm.
working together
Yep.
for the better of the DDA.
Yeah,
So,
we just need to communicate
this
because
right.
the reindeer is not DDA, that is strictly MKP, and then the parade is Lions, so yeah, lots of connections.
So
we have to make
if
sure
not
we
this
make.
year, certainly we'll have to, prepare for it prior to next year's budget approval.
Yeah.
Because if we're doing the Main Street budget, which has been
Mhm.
discussed, that each event will have to assign a budget for.
Yeah.
So if there isn't money, associated with an event, we won't have funds to cover said event. So
even more of a reason to pare it down to just
Mhm.
cornerstone events that Christmas
So-
on the River, Heritage Days, and then our summer stuff.
And then, so my question would be then, do we want to implement anything in the spring like we've tried in the past here and there? I don't know, because then we would at least hit all seasons.
Like having the Easter Bunny in the pavilion or
Yeah,
something.
in the past we did like a art thing in the spring. I don't
One
remember.
year we did a spring fling, that was
Spring fling.
21.
Yeah, that was the
We did a
art
spring
thing, I
fling in
think.
21 and there was chalk on the trail
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Yep, it was like an
Oh,
arty,
I
artsy
remember
thing.
that. Yeah.
So that would be my only question, I guess. And then, and if that's the case, then we're gonna forego Fall Fest, it sounds like, and make Heritage Day kind of our fall thing. And then I guess we really just have to which the event committee can figure out if they can discuss this option for spring if there is to be one and we
I
can
think we
just
can
go from there.
do a few things really awesome.
That would be great.
Just keep it simple with regard to the schedule of it. And if there's 2 events that we have to focus on.
Yeah.
Then we'll just knock it out of the park with 2 events rather than trying, and I think with I think our summer schedule with the bands and the farmer's market, that will grow, I think, as it matures.
Or when we add 300 extra people to the community, which we're about to do. No, we really are.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the project across the river from me,
Yes.
it's gonna really blow up around here.
Yeah. Something that wouldn't cost the DDA a whole lot of money theoretically, what if we added in 2 shopping events to help support the local businesses,
Great
2 twice a year? A Doe's event in November and then like the shop hop we just did too, that was great.
And maybe
Yeah.
move that when the weather break. I mean, people,
Maybe we can do
after
it in the
getting
spring.
cabin fever, are looking for a reason to get out. And if there's a
Spring
plan,
fling?
just to get
Mhm.
people out to the businesses, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly purpose driven. It's right up our alley. So
Mhm.
maybe there we do. We have our 3 events and make it
Smaller.
definitely business centric in the spring. I think that because people will be willing to get out.
It might help our turnover too in the village to,
Yes.
we have such high turnover right
And the
now.
recycling.
Yeah, that's why I think we need to make sure we hit all seasons because
Yes.
there are down seasons. Okay, so sounds like no Fall Fest.
Okay.
And then the event committee will work on plans for next year to kind of set some stuff in stone. Was there anything else on there?
There's nothing else unless anybody had any additional questions for me.
You're doing a great job.
Thank
That
you.
looks good. Okay. In your packet is more informational items, the village manager's report, revenue and expense report, and the Maybank reconciliation.
I can touch base a little bit on the,
Just kidding.
because we posted this, regarding how we're allocating funds. I'd just like to go a little bit of detail about revenue and expense.
Oh, yes, please.
Next meeting, we'll have a more detailed report through the treasurer. She'll, the thing with beautiful graphs. But unfortunately, we're like a day late, so
Okay.
it's not going to happen today. But a couple things I'd like to highlight is I'm referencing this year from last year's budget. So first off, when I look at the revenue, so as of this year, we do not have the farmers market fees shown on there as a separate line item. They actually, they're shown under the event budget. So you would see a little bit of difference there. But most notably, that our summer taxes last year were significantly off, set 18% difference from what we received. So the actual amount that we had indicated as revenue for last year, we had approximately $40,000 less than we do this year for revenue. And mind you, that also, the board did not make an adjustment to the event revenue stream, and there was no additional revenue that came in. So this number is actually inflated. So we actually are more like, 50,000 more this year than we did last year. Now, regarding the expenditures, there's a handful of costs that have went up and a handful that went down. Just kind of want to touch base on how, where, and why. So salary and wages is actually decreased from what they were the last year. That you noticed last year, this time, we were around 27,000, where we're just over 15 this year. So there's been significant changes there. Our finance director or board treasurer has become more efficient, and the amount of cost allocated towards this year to date is actually decreased from where it was last year. However, what was presented last year regarding the cost structure of staff, that we're not currently able to separate fees for, like, for example, health insurance or other added benefits from the salary and wages. So what was proposed as line items for items like workers' comp, health, life insurance, those type of items are going to need to be, especially the health insurance, is going to have to be addressed because we didn't plan accordingly. So we're going to have to do a budget adjustment. But the actual difference in that cost is about $56. Okay. Just scope wise. Beyond that, we're certainly our consultant fees. We have about doubled what our expenses were from last year, year to date. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm looking at our attorney fees have approximately doubled. Our consultant fees are a little different. They're not much difference, about 15%. Also, our event budget, we did have more funds allocated to expenses year to date last year, but that just has to do with how we've been doing our payroll, that the events, all the checks haven't been processed as of yet. So next meeting, I'll be able to give you a better explanation behind that one. But also our placemaking costs significantly down from what they were the year prior. I mean, we're talking, less than a fraction of what the cost was because we were at over 34 last year. However, as you recall, last meeting, we just approved for the streetscape project, which is going to be about 2/3 of what we allocated last year. And we also still have TIF documents coming. So our tentative cost is going to be very similar to what it was last year, just from items that the board has approved so far. That does not mean that when we're looking later on, because here in another month or two, we'll likely be discussing next year's budget. So these are certainly items I'd like you to be aware of from where we were the year before and where we are now. But please note that we'll have better information, more graphics at the upcoming meeting to give a little more insight to this. Does that, to make it more confusing, hopefully that helped giving a little bit of explanation. Yes,
What
sir.
is placemaking?
So placemaking is a general term that there's various items we can do that associate with placemaking. This could be related to the arts. It could be, you know, some infrastructure improvements. But what I'm suggesting we've done so far is like our streetscape design is going to be found under line items of placemaking. When we come to next year's budget though, we're going to talk more about the Main Street, which I can provide you this documentation as well, because the way that our budget's currently oriented is not how best practices suggest.
So placemaking is like,
Sense of place, it's
so we're getting like,
design aspects to help
Okay.
encourage people
Gotcha.
to want to live, work, and play.
but it's gonna look like we're buying like signage and that kind of
Signage
stuff?
can go into
So that's what it's gonna look
placemaking.
like?
You know,
Beautification,
any type of
flowers.
beautification
Oh, alright.
improvements, yeah. So like
Placemaking.
last year, the art sculptures
Yeah.
were one of the large projects, things such as the amphitheater certainly, you know, are in the placemaking line item as well.
Gotcha.
They could also fall under consultant fees if we hire a professional to do certain items.
Just
So
never
some of
heard
these
that
are
term before.
split.
Mhm.
That try to work with the board to prepare a budget that helps align where our goals are with our funds and how we can allocate these, because we can't spend funds from a line item that isn't part of our current budget without getting a amendment to our.
So by calling it placemaking, it makes it a lot easier to spend the money there because it is kind of.
It's
more of a
not
easier
specific
catch-all.
to an individual
Yeah,
project.
yep.
Like if we said the amphitheater, like our development plan says the amphitheater is specified amount, that means that if we found something here that may impact the amphitheater, we wouldn't be able to allocate those funds.
Because you'd be handcuffed.
But next year, we're likely going to put the handcuffs on.
Woohoo.
But like a boardwalk and with a seawall along the river might be placemaking, for instance,
Return and
Just
drop
as-
hints.
which would be nice.
Very good example. So yeah, we just want to make sure as the DDA per Act 57 of 2018, we're required to have 2 informational meetings where we notify all the taxing jurisdictions of how we're allocating funds without actually spending them. So just want to make sure that this information is available to any members of the public that's interested, as all of the taxing jurisdictions clerks have been notified of today's meeting.
Perfect. Anything else for that? Okay. Moving on to public comment. Seeing none. You already spoke. Do you want to speak again?
You only get one turn.
You're a father-daughter dance or
You have-
something.
Okay, perfect. Okay, DDA board member comments, starting with Casey.
Oh, okay. I just want to say welcome to our new members. I'm really excited to have you guys on board. I'm excited to see what we're gonna do. And just going forward, I'm excited for all the events and stuff, so.
Eric?
Excited to see a fully populated board. It's been a long time. And I'm gonna miss Joe.
Mm-hmm. Don't make me cry again.
And that's it.
I'm wondering, as I look at, I guess, we're calling it the turnover, the constant
Mhm.
businesses starting and then folding and starting and folding.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if, I know it's not a formal job that the DDA would probably have, but I wonder if maybe a lot of us had businesses before, maybe we could offer like go over a checklist or something like this with somebody who, if we hear about them starting a business and get wind of it, we might be able to go and say, here's some things that have caused other people grief.
Like an exit interview, kind of.
But like.
Well, like a
enter
preview, so that they can like think
Yeah.
about this before they start, because once they start, then they're off to the races. And our ability to offer any kind of guidance I mean, it's after the fact, it would be great, but so many of these folks, one of the reasons that they fold is they don't have enough cash flow. And
Mhm.
when that starts going bad, you can give them all the guidance in the world, they don't have any ability to change.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering if, as a volunteer basis, that might be something that we might be able to offer that. Like if you want to start a business here in the DDA, we could have somebody go and like I would volunteer to go and do that myself and just sit down and go through some real basics.
Mhm.
And if we're not consultants, we'd make the lawyer go through that and make sure that we're not offering anything and we're not using lawn darts. But when we get done, then, we could give them hopefully maybe a little bit better chance so that hopefully the turnover goes down.
That may be like a good thing for our economic development committee to have a discussion on.
Absolutely, and I can also send out the Main Street training too. So when you get a chance, the new board members to go over, because that may help with, fine tuning the idea as well.
And then we can get together and, come up with a plan to.
Absolutely.
Like monthly classes for how to market using AI. So that could be cool.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I like that. Yeah.
Welcome to all of our new people. It is pretty exciting. I was just recently back on the DDA after being off for a few years back on. But this is cool, seeing everybody on here. So I think we got a good team.
Kevin?
Hi.
Hi.
Take it back.
See,
Get the hammer.
welcome all new members. And frankly, I haven't seen a full board in my tenure on the village council, period. So this is a first for me, and I've been around for a minute. But thanks for volunteering, because this is a big deal. This is the rudder that will bring people to our community and make it a better place. And it all starts here. So I'm excited to have a full board. So welcome and thank you for your service. Segueing into, this is the beginning, and I love what I'm hearing already, just to build better through planning and strategy. And the one trap I think it's really easy to fall into is the tactical. Like, we don't want to worry about what color flower. We just want to know, are we going to have flowers or not, right? And I know that our committees are designed for such things, but I think as a board to have a vision, and I threw a bunch of stuff at Doug, which I was giving him some slack on his way in this morning or this afternoon, but it truly is thinking big. When I think about what the DDA can accomplish when it comes to placemaking and things like that, I am thinking about seawalls and boardwalks along the east bank behind the amphitheater. How do we do that? How do we get the grants to do that? Or how do we create a place where people will come to the downtown area and just be there around the businesses that are here? And that's not to forego the folks that are on 37, but they get something that we don't in that downtown, and that is traffic. A lot of traffic based on Sergeant Ware's report. 500,000 people, was it nearly 800,000, I'm sorry, almost 800,000 a month, right? Which was crazy. And half of those were unique on 37. How do we capture some of that? And it's word of mouth, right? So to think about how we can make data-driven decisions, how does AI play into this? I can tell you it's through the right tools and making sure that we're empowering Doug to capture that data and give it to new businesses before they make a decision. I love the conversation that just happened. That needs to take place. We need to show people why they want to make Middleville the home for their business, and then making it welcoming and having events and having community participation. It's not the cornerstone of what the DDA does. I think that we would be remiss if we didn't do events, but to have a select number, be really targeted and awesome at those 2 or 3 events makes all the difference in the world. It's not as chaotic, right? And Doug alluded to it. Planning, we're going to have far more detailed financial requirements in terms of planning and allocations. That is an ingredient for strategic thinking and thinking not today, but 5 years from now. and 10 years from now? And what are we going to do as a collective to think like that? And where are we going to put our money? And it doesn't have to be, what do we do in the next 3 months? It has to be, what are we going to do in the next 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 years? And I do it all the time. And how do we work with the township to proliferate those ideas, to bring those people to the city center and bring us closer to the people? So I'm excited that we have this board. I'm excited about the fact that it's full. And I'm even more excited under your leadership, Ms. King. I truly believe that we are going to definitely make a difference. I really am so encouraged by this. So thank you for all of what you guys do. And that's all I got. So thank you.
Your turn.
You're up.
My turn.
Yeah.
My name is Trevor. Thanks for having me. Excited to be a new board member. We don't have a ton of experience on the DDA, obviously. It's day one. But super excited to work with all of you. And it's going to take me a few minutes to remember names and stuff. But a lot of the things that were discussed, from your idea with businesses, you talking about events and having like mainstays, and like you were just saying with the long game, I'm super excited for the ability to help with the long-term strategic stuff and how we can benefit the village in the long run.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you.
So I would like the newbies to introduce themselves and then tell us what they do. I've been to your ribbon cutting, so I know what you do, but yes, Trevor.
Yeah, I figured that was probably coming. Life story, fun fact about myself, all that good stuff.
Well, it's really hard. I'm always asked, to discuss your curriculum vitae, and then I blow it. Because it's hard to talk about ourselves, right? So, go ahead.
What a curricular vitae is.
It's a fancy word for resume.
We use the term resume.
Well, in the courts, they want curricular vitae. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, they were picking on you about talking long, and now here we go.
Here we go. Way to go, Trevor.
So, my first house was actually in Millville, right in when I was 20 years old, bought right on 515 East Main Street. I've always kind of grown up in the area, 108th and Whitneyville. Grew up in a family business, ended up going the law enforcement route for a few years, and part-time worked for Trinity Training and Security. Had the opportunity to buy it. So for about a year now, I've owned Trinity over by Dollar General there.
Okay.
But I guess I kind of.
So you teach safety firearm.
We do. Yep. We teach a lot of different things. We have 6 instructors, and then we have about 42 that work private security. So we're a private security agency. That's our bread and butter. But we also do like CPL, CPR, AED, active shooter, all that stuff that we do training on. So both at our facility and at businesses, schools, churches, all that good stuff. We've actually kind of moved away from using our location. It's really just an office space at this point. But yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Okay. I picked up on military coming from you a little bit, but.
Nope,
Sure.
not military. But
Yeah.
The other side, law enforcement.
turn.
I'm Stephanie McDonald, owner of Lenny's Links. I specialize in cosmetic tattooing and permanent jewelry up there. I also have just a small boutique of local vendors. I am just really honored to be on this board. I keep saying, if you want to see the change, you need to be the change. And that's why I want to be here. So thank you for having me. I have a background, if we're talking about resumes, in sales and marketing. So that's where my brain always is and how we grow. So if you ever have any questions, want to bounce ideas, I would love to. That's me.
Awesome.
I'm retired. I bought the Broken Smoker. I make historical board games, which has not got a big market face to face. So I sell most of that on the internet. So I bring pallets of games and sometimes make them and sell them out there. And so the upstairs is available. Prior to that, I spent 30 years in the military between the Army and the Marine Corps. So kind of been around.
Awesome.
So that's me.
Very good.
Love that.
Welcome, and I'm done.
Okay. Do you want to add any more? No, you're good. Okay. I got all confused. Okay, so what I was gonna say is, what about these oldies? Why don't we introduce ourselves to the newbies? So Casey
You
is
started it.
Casey is a special part of our board because she's a required part of our board.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm Casey. I've been in Middleville honestly my whole life. My late husband and I bought our home in Middleville in 21, and we live in the DDA district.
We have to have at least one of those.
So yes, so I still live in our house, and I work in healthcare. I have been for 9 years now, almost. But I also am very involved in our community, and that's why we wanted to stay here. We loved our community, and so here we are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Eric Schaefer, Middleville DDA Secretary, Thornapple Township Supervisor, Rotary Club President for this year, and I don't know, is there anything else? I don't know.
Any more
There
titles?
may be
All the
more, but
things.
that's enough for now.
Okay, perfect.
I'm Ann Alberg. I'm the High Point Community Bank Branch Manager. I've been in the Middleville area probably a good 28, 30 years. I was on the DDA board before. And yeah, I'm glad to be back on it. So,
Awesome. Who are you again?
make it quick.
Clean up. Aisle 3. Kevin Smith, happen to be village president
Oh,
and
makes sense.
chief information officer in the financial and insurance industry, and moved here 16, 17, almost 20 years ago. Our daughters are BFFs, so. So that sums it up. I love this community. I own Mixed Co-working. Well, my wife would say that she owns it, so we'll say Renee owns Mixed Co-working Studio. I own the building, and then I own the locks and where Left Field Coffee. I own that building as well, and I have no space available, unfortunately. So,
That's great, though.
but
Fingers crossed,
yeah.
soon no one will.
so I definitely have vested interest in the success of Middleville and put a lot of my life savings into it. So I want to watch it thrive, and it seems to be doing just fine with or without me. So
It's gonna go.
it's good. Great.
I'm Sherry DeGraff. I've served as your village president, vice president, planning commissioner, ZBA, LDFA. I work from home. I work with administrative law judges. I'm a social security disability vocational expert. I also do medical malpractice with attorneys. So yeah, I have an exciting job. So this is my fun stuff, is to get involved. Right, because it's heavy.
She
So,
calls me when she's bored.
And
Yeah.
you live in the district as well.
yeah, I've been here
So-
13 years, live in the condos over here, so.
Perfect. Well, I'm Justine. I'm recently the VP of branch operations for Thornapple Credit Union, so I oversee all 3 of their locations now, but my primary office is here in Middleville. I'm very involved in the schools. I'm on all of my kids' PTO boards, and that's super important to me. We've been in the TK school district since 2019, so we live out in Irving Township. So yes, that's kind of me. As far as comments, obviously welcome to our newbies. This is so exciting because we used to run like a kind of borderline illegal board with like not enough people. So this is very exciting to be fully legal and full. So I'm very excited. Words I tried to. I know. I said borderline. I said borderline. Just to put that on YouTube.
We were always legal.
Borderline. I said borderline illegal. It was pushing it some days, but we made it work. What I was trying to say earlier, and couldn't get words out. Joe was amazing. So grateful for his time on our board and all of his dedication to our community. So grateful to have spent so much time with him, and glad we got him back on our board because he was off for a little bit, but so happy he was back and working actively, and his passion is admirable. So hopefully we can really, if we can make the farmers market incredible, it'd kind of be an awesome memory. Yeah, a tribute to him. So So I'm all in on making that great. So anyway, the other thing I was going to say, I know Doug had a couple thing talking about a board retreat. Now that we're all full, I would love to work on coming up with that. So I don't know if we'll do like a poll or something for dates, or kind of come up with a way to come up with a plan of at least a date to get on the books, and then we can maybe get some formal plans after that. I don't know, whatever.
I could send out a doodle poll. Does like
Maybe.
mid-July to like mid-August sound like a fair amount of time for us to try to figure out
Do
what
our best to-
availability is?
Yeah.
Hopefully before people go
for
back to school.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll try to figure that out. And then otherwise, yeah, I think I'm just excited. And I was really nervous at the beginning, but I'm good. Sweating a little. But all right. Well, I will take a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
So moved.
Support.
Motion with support. All in favor?
Aye.
We're done.
Let's not retreat. Let's just like, move in a different direction or something. I'm just fundamentally against retreat. It just doesn't seem to be something I should ever be doing.
We're gonna go